Welcome to episode 152 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode plus show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come and joined us, please do. So hello, how are you? It is Sunday, September 3rd. In the US, we are in the middle of a holiday weekend. Tomorrow is Labor Day, so we are off work, and it is a beautiful, kind of summery weekend, not too hot. It's in the 80s, and I have been using this weekend just to sort of kick back and relax and recover from the last several with traveling and guests and whatnot. I have been super productive this week, which has made me happy. And of course, with fall looming, I want to cast on everything. I have 3 or 4 shawls I want to cast on and another sweater, and I have stuff for the kids that I need to do. And I just want to cast on and knit everything. And yesterday I actually stayed home almost all day and touched almost everything that I wanted to. There was only one project I didn't get to, which is fine because I always have overly ambitious goals on the weekends, and then I feel like I don't get anything done. And I got so much done yesterday that I was really happy. So this morning I exercised, got that out of the way. I'm working on laundry, and I figured I would podcast and talk to you, and then I am going to put my feet up for the rest of the afternoon and just hang out. Wes went out with his friends, and he'll be back in time for dinner, and then tomorrow we are going to barbecue at a friend's house. So it should be a nice, relaxing weekend. Actually, we don't have too much planned for the month of September, which I'm okay with. October, there is the 5K that I signed up to run, and then we're going to be going out of town again for a little bit. So I'm happy, and then the holidays will be here, and it will be kind of nutty. So I am happy to have just a brief break right now to just enjoy things. The other big news of the week is that my husband got a new-to-him car. His car was getting pretty old and had quite a few miles on it, and he wanted to donate it. There's an organization near here that accepts donations of cars and gives them to veterans who are returning after serving overseas. And my husband was in the Marines and decided that he really wanted to do this. So this week we went out and test drove, and in a whirlwind, he got a new-to-him car. It's a slightly used Jeep Cherokee. So he is super excited, and now he's just cleaning out and fixing up his truck a little bit so that they can come and take it. So I think that's all that has happened this week. I have lots to show you and talk about, so let's get started. Today's tea is one that I got in a Republic of Tea catalog. This is called Ginger Peach Chocolate Black Tea. And I have drunk the ginger peach tea before and really liked it. I have not drunk the variety with the chocolate. And actually, I believe they were promoting this week in my email offer. If you are interested in the Republic of Tea, their catalogs are great because they always come with a packet of tea to enjoy, and that comes maybe half a dozen times a year. And then they have some good deals and stuff, and they'll email you. So if you're interested in tea, that's a way to go. And I am drinking that today in my tea time mug. So I am enjoying this. And it's a little warm for hot tea, but I figured I'd make it anyway. As I burn my mouth and spill on myself. Excellent! It is really good. It tastes like their ginger peach tea, which is heavy on the peach, not so much on the ginger. And then it does have a little bit of the chocolate underneath. I don't know about you. I'm so-so on chocolate teas. I think I like it more in something like this where it is an element of the tea but not the entire tea. Because it always tastes a little bit, even if it's made with cocoa powder, to me it tastes a little bit fake because I think of like hot chocolate with a real rich chocolatey taste. And I don't get that in tea. So, I don't know. That's my personal preference, but this one's pretty good if you get a chance to try it. Okay, so now I have tea all over me. I guess I'll smell like ginger peach today. So let's talk about the knits. I have one tiny finished object that you guys didn't even hear or see me knit in process. These are mittens for Miles. I knit a little pixie-ish hat for him earlier this year and had about third of the skein left over, and it was just enough to do some mittens with a nice little I-cord to match, and yeah. So they are all set and ready to go to him. I think I'm only going to do one set for him because a couple of the sets that I did for Roxy should actually fit him this year. So I'm just doing, I guess I did 2 hats for him, one hat and mitten set, and then one just a hat. So he'll have some of his own, but a lot of the hats and mittens that I did for Roxy were more unisex, so he'll get some hand-me-downs. I know second kid always gets some hand-me-downs, but I will make him some of his own. But like, I think I'm going to make Roxy 2 sets this year because she's out and about more, and because of course there are no hand-me-downs. So that was the first one. This is the simple mitten pattern by Tin Can Knits. I love their patterns. They're super easy. They are great because they have like baby, toddler, child, adult, small, medium, and large. And they're super simple. I just enjoyed whipping these up. They took me 2 nights. I knit one mitten in one night and then the I-cord and the second mitten last night. And I really like them. And then also, I'm going to try and make an effort to talk about needle sizes. I used US 5s and 7s for these, 5s for the cuffs and 7s. And I should also say that the pattern is great because it's for a variety of yarn sizes. I used worsted, but they have fingering, DK, worsted, and Aran. It might be DK worsted, and it might be fingering, sport, DK worsted, and Aran. I just know that there are 4 weights of yarn and 5 or 6 sizes, and so it's a great pattern. I will probably be using the exact same pattern for Roxy, just knitting them more in her size. So that is the first thing finished. Let's talk about whips. So I am making excellent progress on the mix and match sweater that I am test knitting for Mina. That is the expat knitter. And this is a sweater that starts at the 3 to 6 month size and runs all the way up to the 6 to 8 year size. And I am knitting this one, and the deal is it is called mix and match because you have a couple different options, so you can sort of mix and match your sweater. This is what I have so far. This is Madeline Tosh Yaza in the verdigris colorway. It is this great green. It is kind of like almost a mossy, foresty green, and it is a semi-solid, so it has some nice shading. The options in the pattern are, there are 2 necklines. I chose the basic crew neck. There are 2 bodies. You can knit it in stockinette or the textured stitch. I chose to knit it in the textured stitch. And then at the hem, there are also 2 options. You can either do a regular hem, or you can do a high-low, where the back hem is, you do it with short row shaping, and the back hem is a little bit longer than the front hem, just sort of to cover their bottom, or so the sweater won't ride up. And I chose to do the high-low. I am knitting the size 2 to 4 years. And I anticipated that it would fit Miles next year because he is almost 1. He'll be 1 in October. And I had already knit him a sweater for this year, so I figured I'd knit this one for next year. As it turns out, because this is a 2 to 4 year and it's looking, I'm spot on gauge and my measurements are coming out fine, but as I look at it, I am pretty sure that it will probably fit Roxy this year. So I think I'm going to send it to my sister this year, and if Roxy can wear it, she'll get to wear it first, and then he'll get to wear it second. And technically I designed it for him, but it is a very unisex sweater in a great color, so I think it will be fine. Obviously, it is missing some arms. The final set of options is you could do short sleeve or long sleeve. The kids live in Chicago, so I'm definitely going to be doing long sleeve. I started this, I guess, right before I podcasted last time, so last Saturday night, and I finished the body yesterday, and then I will do the sleeves this week. So I wanted to get this done by the 15th because that is Mina's deadline for test knitting, and I will not have any problems with that. So again, that is the Mix and Match sweater by Mina Phillip. She is the expat knitter, and that pattern is forthcoming. My guess is it will release towards the end of September, or maybe even like the 20th-ish. Like I said, test knitting we needed to be done by the 15th, so I'm sure it will release fairly soon after that. But I am super pleased with my progress. This has been a super quick knit. Knitting in worsted for tiny people knits up fast. So, and then the other knit that I have been working on this week that you guys have seen before is my mom's scrap blanket. Like I said last week, she saw my mitered square scrap blanket and fell in love with it, and so she asked for one of her own, and I started it, and I added 7 more squares, 1 a day, since we last talked. So I am now up to, let's see, 10 squares. And I am just kind of, as you can see, I haven't woven in many of the ends. Usually what I do with the ends is once I have attached the new squares so that all sides of a square are actually like boxed in pattern, then I weave in all the ends. So I still have plenty of ends to weave in, although I will be doing some of it as I go, and actually I have done a few of the ends already, so it's not all of them, but of course it does look kind of messy. I'll see what I can do to tidy that up next week. But I am letting myself knit 1 square a day. I love knitting on blankets like these. I wasn't intending to do a second one for myself, but having someone else to do one for is really nice. I use between 8 and 10 grams of either worsted weight or sock weight yarn. The sock weight I hold doubled, and the worsted I hold single. And so I added in a variety. As you can see, this is the last little bit of the orange from the Mittens that I just knit miles. This blue is from my recent sweater for Camp Loopy. This pink is one of the ones that I used in the Find My Fade shawl. This is another color that I used in my Find My Fade shawl. It is Susie Parker Yarns BFL in Tangerine Twist. This is the yarn that won't die, and this is the final little ball of it. It is my Miss Babs Yowza that I used for my cardigan in Tulipa. I also knit Roxy, I think I knit Roxy a sweater out of it. I also knit her a hat and mittens out of it. I just had so much of this. This is a mini from a Long Dog Dye Works, and it is called Electric Parakeet. And then this is left over from a baby sweater that I knit ages ago. It is Nerd Girl Yarns it's kind of a bluish gray in the colorway 221B Baker Street. So that is what I've got going on here. I probably won't bring this in every week, but right now, while it's still small and progress is very visible, I thought I would bring it in and show it to you. It is Riotous Color, and I just love it. So I will have to take some breaks from knitting on it though, because I'm going to have to make more scraps of yarn. I've been using, my blanket used up a lot of my scraps, and then I have been working on the Ripple Crochet Afghan, and so I've been putting a lot of my fingering scraps in that. So, but I do have quite a few worsted projects. Obviously I'll have some left over from the sweater, and then I also have a couple more skeins of worsted to do some stuff for Roxy. So that will give me some stuff, and I'll just have to keep knitting over the next year and add more to it. So not really a problem, but I suspect I will slow down at some point because I will run out of scraps and need to make more. So that is my, this is the Cozy Memories blanket, or the Memory Blanket by Georgie Nicholson. It is available on Ravelry. I believe it is a free pattern. I don't know what the specifics are of the pattern. I know what I made mine. I'm using US size 5 needles, and I am casting on 40 stitches, so 20 on each side of the square, and I am doing around the center, I am doing an SSK knit 2 together. So on either side I just put a marker in my knitting. I'm not doing the center double decrease with like 1 stitch in the middle. I'm actually doing 2 decreases, 1 on each side, and that is how I'm doing mine. That is how I did the one behind me, so I am just going back with that, but I am using Georgie Nicholson's pattern as a guide, or I did back when I did that one. So that's that. My newest whip is something that I cast on for this week, and I talked about this, and this is going to be hard to see. I wish I'd printed it out in color, because with the way it looks, it would be much easier to see in color, but we'll try this. I usually don't print out in color just to save some space. This is the Calliope Cowlet, and it is a new pattern by Karina Spencer. And actually, I believe she has pulled it down right now. There are some errors in the written directions. It is both charted and written. And the chart looks okay, but there are some errors that I noticed in the written directions, and there's a note that says she's getting that checked right now, so it should be up again soon. It is a cowlet that calls for a skein of DK weight, 320 yards of DK weight yarn. I'm actually knitting it in a worsted weight, so I went up 1 needle size. It calls for a US 7, so I'm using a US 8, which means mine will be a little bit bigger, but that's fine. And it is great for variegated yarns because there are a variety of stitches and textures, and I don't know if you can see, but there are a lot of sections where there are almost like floats where you run the yarn in front of the project to create a straight line, and there's some interesting stitches. It's just a really cool looking pattern. I'm sorry that I didn't print it in color. Like I said, it's the Calliope Cowlet, and I will link that in the show notes so you can look. And you might be able to see a little bit. So I decided to knit it in, this is the ongoing saga of the Manos del Uruguay Alegria Grande. Fairmount Fibers, which is the U.S. distributor of Manos del Uruguay, graciously sent me a single skein of this. It is a worsted weight that's 75% wool, 25% polyamide. It is 197 yards and knits up U.S. size 6 to 8 needles. And the colorway is Tannat, T-A-N-N-A-T, and it is this beautiful dark reds, purples, pinks with pops of blue, and then little pops of like a really pale blue that almost look white in there. And it is just gorgeous. I got one skein and didn't know what I was going to do with it, and then saw this cowl and was like, that is exactly what I want to do with it. It will show it off perfectly. But since one skein is 197 yards and that calls for 320 yards, I actually bought a second skein so that I could use it in my project. So this project will use more than one skein, but one of them is a review yarn. So far, I am loving knitting with the yarn. It is really, really soft. It is kind of a bouncy, round yarn, and I'm really enjoying that. It is quite a few plies. I don't know if it tells me how many plies it is. It is quite a few plies, but I just really, really like it. It does suggest, I'm looking at this right now, it does suggest that you machine or hand wash, cool water, dry flat. So even though it's a super wash, they suggest that you hand wash. I do that for most of my things anyway, unless I'm literally knitting for kids. And so I cast on and started working on this the other night, and this is what I have so far. Let me pull this out so you can see this. This is a cowlet in the sense that it starts back and forth and then at some point it joins up. But that is what I have so far. So you can see there's like a lot of textured stitches, and there's something called a butterfly stitch, which is where you catch those floats. I don't want to give away too much. You'll definitely need to look at the pattern. But it is turning out to be a lot of fun and not boring. There are no real resting rows, so I have to keep an eye on what I'm doing the whole time. But I just love the way it's knitting up, and this pattern was just absolutely meant for variegated yarns because it also, all the different stitches are such that there isn't going to be any pooling in this. So I'm really, really pleased about that. I'll take some photos and put something up on Instagram so you can see a little bit of what I'm doing, because I know it's kind of hard in the camera with all the variegated color and stitches and everything. So again, I'm using a size US 8 and the Manos Alegria Grande, and I'm really enjoying that. I suspect this will take me a little while to knit just because there are lots of different stitches to sort of mess around with. And so I did this the other night in about half an hour to an hour, and of course the rows will just get longer. So I'm just going to plug away at this one and hopefully get this one done in the next week or two, and probably 2 weeks, because I'll probably focus on the sweater first and get that done. But that's going to be a really fun addition to my fall wardrobe. So, and actually I think it would even go fine with the shirt I'm wearing today. So awesome. So that is what I've got in terms of knitting. I also have a whole bunch of shawls and cowls and a sweater that I want to knit, so you'll be seeing some of that stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. I'm not letting myself get too excited about that, although I did pick out colors. I want to make an exploration station by Stephen West, and I picked out my colors yesterday. So I think when I finish the cowl and the baby sweater, that might be the next thing on my needles. Also upcoming on my needles, and let's move to spinning, I finished that Julie Spins skein, or bump of fiber that I was spinning as singles, and it is huge and fluffy. And my guess is I got about between 800 and 850 yards of singles, and then I finished them. I fold them a little bit, which is why it is like huge and fluffy. This is 6.5 ounces, and like I said, probably about 850 yards of like a between a fingering and lace weight. It's not super thin since I fold it, and this is destined for the Citron Along that my friend Linda is hosting, and I plan to knit from the light pinky orangey end through sort of the darker brown charcoal gray end, and so I'm going to wind that up, and that will also be cast on once I finish some of my stuff. And as you can tell, I'm kind of in a color theme right now. Dark pinks and purples and oranges with little pops of different colors. So I am pleased with this. It's still a little kinky despite washing it and drying it. That is kind of the nature of singles, but I'm excited to wind those up and cast that on. So I started with another spin this week. That was the Hello Yarn Blancmange colorway. It is a Targhee bamboo silk, which is turning out to be a really nice blend to spin. I think the camera's blowing it out a little bit. It is purples and browns and golds and some white and a little bit of orange. And that is spinning up really, really nicely. Here is the first half on the bobbin. I'm hoping maybe I will even, between today and tomorrow, finish all the singles and maybe even get it plied tomorrow. I don't know if I'll have enough time for that, but I'm going to try and do that. And this one is destined for the shop. So if this looks like something yummy to you, it will go up sometime this week. So that is what I'm about to work on more this afternoon. And then I selected another spin, and it's in the same color family, so I guess I'm just kind of stuck in that color family right now. After this one, I will pick something in a completely different, probably brighter color family to spin. But I went through, I had pulled a bin of things aside to spin for Tour de Fleece, and I didn't quite finish that bin, so I went back in there because I had pulled some things out of stash, and I would like to spin from stash this year, even though some of the things have been new acquisitions. But I showed you this one already. I think I pulled this out. This is Frabjous Fibers. It is her opulent blend. It is like browns and plum colors. It's really, really beautiful. And this is her Opulence blend, which is 30% superfine merino, 30% tussa silk, 20% baby camel down, 20% royal alpaca in the colorway Brooklyn. So that is the label right there. And it is just really, really pretty colors. I mean, it will be a dark and moody spin. I'll be interested to see how well I'm able to spin this, because the superfine merino and the baby camel down are going to be they're super soft, but they're also super short stapled. And then the silk and the alpaca are slightly longer stapled, but I'll be interested to see whether this wants to spin up super thin or whether I should spin it up a little bit thicker. So that will be a interesting spin. And then, like I said, I promise I will move on to brighter colors coming up, because actually with the, yeah, pretty much all of mine have been pinks and purples and browns and kind of dark spins for the last few weeks. So I will move on and look for something that's a little brighter next time. But that is what I'll be working on this week and probably partially through. Somehow I got off on my schedule of like starting a new skein on Sunday or Monday and then finishing it before I record. So I keep ending up at partial weeks. And I will say that I have fallen a little bit behind in my spinning schedule this year. I don't know, we've just been gone and there's been other things going on, and I just haven't sat at my wheel as much. So it'll be sort of interesting to see what I hit as an end of year total. My goal is usually a braid a week, 4 ounces a week. Some weeks I don't spin that. During Tour de Fleece, I spin more than that. And so it'll be interesting to see if I hit the 13 pounds a year. That's sort of my general goal. If not, no big deal. I'm already at close to 10, so I still could hit it. But we're already into September and I'm not quite at 10 yet, so I may or may not. Again, that's fine. I just, I like to keep things moving because I buy a lot, and otherwise you're going to find me trapped under my fiber. And that's where they're going to find me one day. Just gone in my room of fiber, under fiber. So that's what I will be working. Sorry, that got morbid. That's what I will be working on this week. I'm not going to do Spinzilla this year, or at least if I do, I think I'm just going to spin for myself. I spoke about this a little bit last year. I have loved spinning on the Louette North America Spinzilla team for the last couple of years. They have been the champions, which has been great. They have spun the most, and that is certainly not due to my efforts. But I have decided that I'm going to sit out this year, partially because we'll be doing some traveling during that time, but also because my thing about Spinzilla is, particularly if I join a team, I feel like I really need to contribute, and particularly when I'm joining the championship team, I feel like I need to contribute and I need to be spinning every possible second. And last year, I just didn't find it as enjoyable as I found it the previous year when I was first excited about it. I spend a lot of time at my wheel anyway, but I also felt like we had one spinner on our team who spun like close to 30,000 yards. And now that is Spinzilla yardage, which means you get yardage for all the singles and all the plies. So for instance, in a 300 yard skein of 2-ply, I would get 600 yards for the singles plus 300 yards for the plying. So it is inflated a little bit, but even inflated, I can't possibly compete with that. I have to go to work, and I can't sit at my wheel for too long without my back hurting these days. Getting old is wonderful. So I just really decided this year that I'm just going to do my own thing, and I may join as a rogue spinner, just spin for myself. I like to make the donation to TNNA, but I just decided that I'm not going to do competition spinning this year. So that is that one. That's probably it. We're in fall, or we're getting really, really close to fall, even if it feels warm everywhere. And so I am getting into wanting to knit all the things. So I guess I will say thank you for joining me this week. If you were new, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll be back. If you came back, thank you for joining me. I always enjoy seeing you and hearing from you and sharing my projects with you. And I will say, as I always do at the end of every episode, until I see you again, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!